I'm Samantha Timothy, 49, and I built my life from the ground up from a kid raised by a single mom to a Navy flag officer trusted with thousands of sailors. For years, I did everything I could to support the one person who always supported me, my mother. But when her new boyfriend, an Air Force colonel, tried to put me in my place in her own home, I made a decision that changed everything. Have you ever been talked down to, dismissed, or humiliated by someone who should have known better? If you have, share your story in the comments. You're not the only one. Before I get into what happened, tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to stand up for yourself after someone crossed the line, hit like and subscribe for more true stories about boundaries, consequences, and reclaiming your voice. What happened next you'll want to hear. I met him on a Thursday afternoon in late September. My mother's voice had been different on the phone for weeks, lighter, almost girlish, and when I finally made it home between deployments, I understood why. Colonel Mark Hensley stood in her living room like he owned it, shoulders back, chin level, measuring me with eyes that had evaluated subordinates for decades. "Samantha," my mother said, her hand fluttering near her throat, "this is Mark." He extended his hand. His grip was firm, calculated. "Your mother's told me a lot about you." "Navy, right?" "Yes, sir." "What ship do you work on?" The assumption landed like a small stone. I'd spent 28 years earning my way from ensign to flag officer, and he'd placed me somewhere around E4. "I don't work on a ship currently." "I'm stationed at Wright, but I meant, what do you actually do?" "Like your job." My mother touched his arm lightly. "Mark, Sam's had a long flight. Let's sit down." Over dinner, he dominated the conversation. He talked about his years in the Air Force, the commands he'd held, the missions he'd overseen. When my mother tried to mention her volunteer work at the VA hospital, he smiled indulgently and pivoted back to a story about a NATO exercise in Germany. I watched her face shift, the animation draining out, replaced by something patient and waiting. He caught me observing and changed targets. "You should bring someone home sometime, Samantha. Career's important, but you don't want to wake up at 50 realizing you chose the wrong things." I'm 49. I've led carrier strike groups, made decisions affecting thousands of sailors, briefed presidents. But in that moment, sitting at my mother's table, I was being reduced to someone who'd made unfortunate life choices. "I'm quite content with my path," I said. Sure. Just saying, women today, they're told they can have it all, but biology doesn't negotiate." My mother's laugh came out forced. "Mark, Sam's done wonderfully." "I'm so proud of her." "Of course," he said. "I'm just being realistic." Old-fashioned, maybe. That phrase again. She'd used it twice on the phone, like a talisman against criticism. He's old-fashioned. He's from a different generation. He means well. I excused myself early, claiming exhaustion. It wasn't entirely untrue. As I unpacked in my childhood bedroom, still decorated with my academy photos and a faded poster of USS Enterprise, I heard them in the kitchen. His voice carried easily through the old walls. "She's a little defensive. She's just tired, Mark." "I'm just saying, there's a way to speak to people. Respectfully." She was respectful. "If you say so." The conversation ended there, but the tone lingered. I stood in my room, looking at a photograph from my promotion to 06. My mother beside me, beaming. "Captain Samantha Timothy." That was 3 ranks ago. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen before dawn. He startled when I entered, then recovered with a curt nod. "You're up early." "Old habits." "Right. Well, coffee's there." He gestured vaguely toward the pot, as if granting permission in someone else's house. I poured a cup and sat at the table with my tablet, reviewing messages from my chief of staff. Captain Ruiz had flagged 3 items needing attention before Monday. Mark moved through the kitchen with purposeful noise, opening cabinets firmly, setting dishes down with emphasis. When I didn't react, he spoke. "Your mother mentioned you're only here 2 days. 3, actually. I leave Sunday. Short visit. It's what I could manage. Must be hard on her. You being gone so much." I looked up. His expression was neutral, but the implication wasn't. "We manage. We always have. Still, she's not getting any younger. Good that she has someone around more regularly now." The claim of territory was subtle but unmistakable. He'd been in her life 4 months. I'd been her daughter for 49 years. But he was here, present, and I was the one who left. She's lucky to have you, I said carefully. He smiled. I think so. Later that day, small moments accumulated. He corrected my mother's retelling of how they met. He rearranged the living room furniture while we were on the back porch, then acted surprised when she seemed uncertain about the change. He made a joke about kids today not understanding discipline while looking directly at me. I'm a 2-star admiral. I've commanded thousands. I've made calls that determined the safety of carrier groups in hostile waters. But he kept calling me kid and young lady, as if rank and authority were things that only counted in uniform. My mother tried to smooth every rough edge. He's just particular about things, Sam. It's actually kind of nice, having someone who cares about order. But I'd seen this before. In wardrooms, in joint commands, in the tight spaces where institutional power met personal insecurity. I'd watched officers, usually men, usually middle rank, mistake volume for authority and control for leadership. I'd relieved 2 commanders for exactly this kind of behavior toward their subordinates. The real crack came that afternoon. I'd left my travel bag near the stairs, intending to repack it before dinner. Mark nearly tripped over it coming down. In this house, he said, his voice tight, we respect order. I'd been reading in the living room. I looked up. I'm sorry, I'll move it. It's about standards. Your mother and I have an understanding about how things should be. My mother appeared from the kitchen, dish towel in hand. Mark, it's fine. It's just for a couple days. That's not the point, Maggie. The point is respect. He was looking at me now. Discipline doesn't take a vacation just because you're visiting. I stood, picked up the bag, moved it to my room. When I returned, my mother was alone in the kitchen, her hands braced on the counter. I'm sorry, she said quietly. You don't need to apologize for me. I meant, he's just used to things being a certain way. Mom. He's a good man, Sam. Really. He's just structured. I heard the words she wasn't saying. Intense. Controlling. Difficult. The words women use when they're already making accommodations they shouldn't have to make. How often does he get like that? I asked. Like what? Sharp. Over small things. She folded the dish towel with unnecessary precision. He has high standards. It's what made him successful in his career. That's what I told myself too, early in my career, about a commanding officer who screamed at junior officers and called it leadership. It took a formal complaint and an IG investigation before anyone called it what it was. High standards don't require raised voices, I said. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. That night, lying in my childhood bed, I thought about the distance between authority and respect. About how easy it is to confuse the two when you're used to being obeyed. About how my mother had spent 3 decades watching me rise through ranks and still thought she had to accept being spoken to like a subordinate in her own home. Something is off here, I thought. I just didn't know yet how far off it went. It happens on the second night. I'm at the kitchen table at 2200 hours, catching up on correspondence from Pearl Harbor. My chief of staff needs decisions on 3 personnel matters before I return. The house is quiet. My mother went to bed an hour ago, exhausted from trying to keep conversation light through another tense dinner. Mark appears in the doorway. He's changed into civilian clothes, but he still moves like he's in uniform, spine straight, steps measured. He stops when he sees me, and something crosses his face. Irritation. Maybe more. Porch light still on, he says. I glance toward the window. Oh. I can turn it off. Your mother left it on again. I've asked her about that. I don't respond. It's not my argument to join. He walks to the switch, flips it off with emphasis, then notices my position. You're in my seat. I look up. Sorry, that's my seat. At the table. I assume he's joking. I wait for the smile that would make it a joke. It doesn't come. Mark, I'm just finishing a few emails. I'll be done soon. I don't sit anywhere else. His voice has changed. The professional veneer is cracking. I've heard this tone before in officers who've confused their rank with their worth, who need control of small things because the big things feel uncertain. I'll move in a few minutes. You'll move now. The volume rises. Not shouting, but close. In this house, I give the orders. The kitchen seems smaller suddenly. The walls too close. My mother's house, where I grew up, where I learned to tie my shoes and study for the academy entrance exam, has become his territory to defend. I close my tablet slowly. Mark, this is my mother's house. And I'm the man of this house. His face is flushed now. You think you can just ignore me? I outrank you, young lady. The phrase hits differently than it should. Not because it's absurd, it is, but because he believes it. He's looked at me for 2 days, processed the information about my career with the thoroughness of a man who doesn't want to know, and concluded that his O6 supersedes whatever vague rank he's assigned me in his head. My mother appears in the doorway, her robe pulled tight. Mark, what's wrong? Your daughter has a respect problem. I'm just answering emails, I say quietly. In my seat. After I told her to move. My mother looks between us, her face tight with an old familiar expression. The peacekeeper. The smoother of conflict. Sam, honey, maybe. I'm not moving for him, I say. Mark's spine stiffens. What did you say? Something shifts in me. Not anger, clarity. I've spent decades learning to stay calm under pressure, to make decisions when lives depend on steadiness. I reach down to my travel case beside the table and pull out a small leather box. I don't rush. I don't make it dramatic. I set the box on the table and open it. 2 silver stars catch the kitchen light. They sit in navy blue velvet, polished and precise. The room goes silent. Actually, Colonel, I say, my voice level. You do not outrank me. His face drains of color. He stares at the stars like they're written in a language he can't read. I watch him process it. The 2 stars, what they mean, what they make me. Rear Admiral. Oh, 7. 1 full rank above him. Above the rank he's built his entire identity around. His body reacts before his mind catches up. Muscle memory from 3 decades of service. His spine straightens further. His hands go to his sides. He steps back slightly. He stands at attention. He's trembling. My mother has her hand over her mouth. She's staring at the stars too, then at me, then at Mark. Sam, you never. I don't usually carry them around, I say. But I'm traveling to a conference in DC after this. They need to be with me. Mark's breathing is shallow. He's trying to reconcile 2 realities. The woman he's been condescending to for 2 days and the flag officer standing in front of him. Officers don't make O7 by accident. It takes decades of flawless evaluations, critical command tours, and the kind of sustained excellence that gets reviewed by boards of admirals. He's been treating his superior officer like a child. Sir, ma'am, I didn't realize. You didn't ask, I say. Your mother said you were in the Navy, but she did. You didn't listen. My mother's voice is small. I told you she was an admiral, Mark. That first week we met. I showed you pictures from her promotion. He shakes his head, still staring at the stars. I assumed it was honorary, or there's no such thing as an honorary admiral, I say. The silence stretches. He's still standing at attention, his body locked into deference even as his mind races. I can see him trying to find footing, some way to reassert control over a situation that's completely escaped him. You should have told me, he finally says. Made it clear. I did. You chose not to hear it. But you let me think. I let you show me who you are. My mother moves between us, her hands fluttering. Maybe we should all just calm down and, Mom, I say gently. Does he talk to you like this? She freezes. Like what? Like you need permission to exist in your own space. We have an understanding. Does he raise his voice at you? The pause is answer enough. Mark finally breaks attention, his control cracking. Maggie, this is between us. She doesn't need to. She's my daughter. And he stops. The word he wants, partner, boyfriend, whatever he's claimed, sounds hollow now. I'm trying to build something here. Structure. Order. Things were chaotic before her house was not chaotic, I say. You don't live here. You don't see. I see exactly what I need to see. He turns on me, anger finally overtaking shock. You can't pull rank in civilian life, Admiral. This isn't the Navy. You're right. In the Navy, I'd have already relieved you for this behavior. The words land like a slap. He knows what I mean. Relief for cause. The end of a career. A permanent mark. My mother is crying now. Quiet tears she's trying to hide. Please, both of you, just stop. But I'm not the one who needs to stop. I've been measured and calm. I've done exactly what I do on a quarterdeck when an officer loses composure. I've stayed steady and let the truth speak for itself. Mark sees my mother crying and tries one more time to control the narrative. Maggie, I'm sorry. This got out of hand. Your daughter, and I just need to. You need to leave, I say. Excuse me? Tonight. Pack a bag. Leave. You can't order me out of. I'm not ordering you. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You're going to leave tonight because my mother needs space to think. And because if you stay, we're going to have a much longer conversation about how officers treat the people in their lives. He looks at my mother, Maggie. She's staring at the table, at the stars still sitting in their case. When she speaks, her voice is barely audible. Maybe that's best. Just for tonight. The betrayal on his face would be satisfying if this whole situation weren't so sad. He thought he'd found someone he could shape, control, organize into his vision of order. Instead, he's found someone who raised a woman who will not let her be diminished. He leaves without another word. We hear him upstairs, moving with angry efficiency. A door slams. Footsteps on the stairs. The front door closes with controlled force, not quite a slam, but close. My mother and I sit in silence. After a long moment, she reaches out and touches the edge of the star case. 2 stars, she whispers. When did you? 18 months ago. I tried to tell you about it, but we kept missing each other on the phone, and then Mark was always there when we talked, and I'm so proud of you, she says. Then she starts crying in earnest, and I realize this isn't about pride. It's about everything else. Relief, maybe. Or shame. Or the complicated grief of recognizing you've been accepting things you shouldn't have accepted. I close the star case and push it aside. Then I take my mother's hand, and we sit together in her kitchen, in the house where she raised me to be strong, while somewhere down the road a colonel tries to understand how badly he's miscalculated everything. My mother raised me on scrambled eggs and resilience. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom house in Virginia Beach, close enough to Norfolk that you could hear carrier horns on quiet mornings. My father left when I was 3, an engineer who decided stability wasn't for him, and after that it was just us. Mom worked double shifts as an ER nurse, picking up overtime whenever she could. I learned to microwave dinner and do homework at the nurse's station when childcare fell through. She never complained. Not once. When I came home with a brochure for the Naval Academy at 15, convinced I'd never get in, she sat down with me at this same kitchen table and helped me plan. We mapped out my coursework, found a math tutor she couldn't really afford, and practiced interview questions until I could answer them in my sleep. You're going to do this, she said. Not because you have to prove anything to anyone, but because you want it, and wanting something badly enough is half the battle. I got the appointment. She drove me to Annapolis in our aging Honda, crying the whole way, but smiling through the tears. At every promotion ceremony after that, ensign, lieutenant, commander, captain, she was there. Sometimes she had to trade shifts or take red-eye flights, but she was there. No one could outrank my daughter, she used to joke. I'd have to date an admiral just to keep up. It was funny then. A running gag between us. She'd been single for so long, throwing herself into work and my career, that dating seemed like a distant hypothetical. The years stacked up. I made 4 at 35, 5 at 40, 6 at 44. Each promotion meant more responsibility, longer deployments, less time at home. My mother kept working until retirement at 65, then threw herself into volunteer work at the VA hospital. We talked on the phone twice a week, Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings, scheduled around time zones and duty rotations. How are you, Mom? Fine, honey. Busy. The hospital needs volunteers for the new PTSD wing. Are you taking care of yourself? Of course. Are you? But I worried. She was alone in that house, aging in ways I could only track through phone calls. Her voice got a little softer each year, a little more tired. When she mentioned Mark 6 months ago, I felt relief mixed with caution. I met someone, she said, her voice careful. At the hospital. He volunteers too. He's former Air Force. A colonel. That's wonderful, Mom. He's very nice. Structured, you know? He has his routines. But he's been a good companion. The word caught my attention. Not boyfriend. Not partner. Companion. Like she was describing a pleasant acquaintance, not someone she was building a life with. Does he make you happy? Yes. I think so. It's just nice to have someone around. Over the following months, the pattern continued. She'd mention Mark, always with qualifiers. He's very organized. He likes things a certain way. He's old-fashioned. She never said he made her laugh. Never said he surprised her or challenged her or made her feel seen. I should have paid more attention. I should have heard what she wasn't saying. The signs were there. The way she started phrases with Mark thinks or Mark prefers. The way our calls got shorter when he was around. The slight tension in her voice when I asked direct questions. But I was in the middle of a critical command tour, managing a carrier strike group through deployment rotations, and I told myself my mother was a grown woman who could make her own choices. She'd survived decades alone. She'd raised a flag officer. She didn't need me second-guessing her relationship. Except now, sitting in her kitchen at 0200 hours, after Mark has left and the house has finally gone quiet, I see it clearly. She'd spent 30 years being strong for me, working overtime, sacrificing, pushing me toward a dream that took me away from her again and again. And when she finally had space to want something for herself, she'd chosen someone who made her feel like she needed taking care of, even if that care came with conditions. I thought he was stable, she says quietly. We're still at the table, cold coffee between us. After the academy, after watching you deal with all that military structure, I thought dating someone from that world would make sense. Someone who understood. Understanding the military doesn't make someone a good partner. I know that now. When did it start? The controlling behavior? She looks down at her hands. Small things at first. He'd rearrange my kitchen cabinets because they weren't logical. He'd critique how I organized my day, said I wasted time on inefficient routines. I told myself it was helpful, that maybe I had gotten set in my ways. Mom. Then he started commenting on other things. How I dressed. How I spoke to people. He said I was too soft with the volunteers at the VA, that people took advantage because I didn't set firm boundaries. I think about Mark's face earlier tonight. The way he'd spoken to her like she was a subordinate who needed correcting. How natural it had seemed to him. Did he ever? He never hit me, she says quickly. Nothing like that. Just words. Volume. That look he gets when something isn't how he wants it. I've relieved officers for less. For creating hostile environments. For using rank to intimidate. For mistaking fear for respect. You don't have to accept that, I say. I know. I do know. But Sam, I was lonely. After you made Admiral after I retired, I just felt so small. Like I'd spent my whole life being someone's mother or someone's nurse, and I didn't know who I was beyond that. And then Mark showed up and paid attention to me, and I thought that was enough. The confession breaks something open in me. All those years of deployments, of putting career first, of calling twice a week like that was sufficient. I'd been so focused on rising through ranks that I'd missed my mother shrinking in the spaces I'd left behind. I'm sorry, I say. I should have been here more. Don't. This isn't your fault. I'm proud of what you've done. So proud. You've achieved things I couldn't even imagine. But you were alone. And I made a bad choice about how to fix that. She finally meets my eyes. Thank you for seeing it. For not letting me pretend it was okay. We sit in silence for a while. Outside, morning is coming. The sky going from black to deep blue. In a few hours, this house will fill with daylight and decisions. But right now, in this quiet moment, I think about the cost of authority. I've spent my career learning to lead, to make hard calls, to see clearly when others can't or won't. But I never thought I'd have to use those skills to see what was happening to my own mother. We'll figure this out, I say. She nods, wiping her eyes. I know. But I can see she doesn't quite believe it yet. She's spent 4 months accommodating Mark's version of order. It'll take more than one night to remember what her life looked like before she lets someone else define it. I think about the stars in their case, still sitting between us. Symbols of authority I've earned through decades of service. But the real authority, the kind that matters, is the clarity to see truth even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. especially when the person who needs protecting is the woman who taught you to be strong in the first place. Morning comes too quickly. I wake at 0600 to the sound of someone moving through the house. For a moment, I forget where I am. The childhood bedroom feels unfamiliar after years of BOQ rooms and flag quarters. Then I remember Mark, the confrontation, my mother's face as she finally admitted what she'd been accepting. I find her in the kitchen, already dressed, making coffee with the careful movements of someone who didn't sleep. She looks older in the morning light, or maybe I'm just seeing clearly what I missed before. Did you sleep at all? I ask. A little. She pours 2 cups, slides one toward me. He texted 3 times, asking if he can come by to talk. What did you say? Nothing yet. She sits down, wrapping both hands around her mug. I don't know what to say. We're still sitting there when we hear a vehicle in the driveway. My mother's face tightens. I told him not to come, but she hadn't told him. She'd just not responded. And to Mark, silence probably felt like an opening. He lets himself in with a key I didn't know he had. He stops in the kitchen doorway when he sees us both. He's in uniform, flight suit, crisp and correct, and I realize this is calculated. The uniform as armor, rank as defense. Maggie, he says, we need to talk. She told you not to come, I say. I'm talking to Maggie, not you. My mother stands slowly. Mark, maybe this isn't the best time. When would be a good time? After your daughter finishes poisoning you against me? The accusation sits heavy in the small kitchen. He's reframed the entire situation in his mind overnight. I'm the problem, not his behavior. Classic deflection from someone who can't accept accountability. No one's poisoning anyone, my mother says. I just need some space to think. About what? We were fine until she showed up. Were we? The question comes out softer than I expect. My mother sets down her coffee. Were we really fine, Mark? We have a good thing. Structure. Partnership. I know I got heated last night, but that was just, he glances at me. I was caught off guard. Finding out about her rank. I felt ambushed. I told you she was an admiral, my mother says. You said it casually. I thought, he stops, realizing how it sounds. It doesn't matter what I thought. The point is we can work through this. I stay quiet. This is my mother's conversation to have. But I keep my eyes on Mark, watching for the moment the mask will slip again. I don't know if we can, she says. His expression hardens. Because of one argument? Maggie, that's not fair. I've been here for you. I've helped you organize your life. You said yourself things were chaotic before. I never said that. You implied it. You needed someone to what? To control how I arrange my kitchen? To tell me when I'm wasting time? To correct how I talk to people? He takes a step forward, then catches himself when I shift slightly in my peripheral. He's remembering the stars, the rank, the reality. He can't argue his way around. I was trying to help, he says. If you'd felt differently, you should have said something. I did. You didn't listen. That's not. He runs a hand over his face. Maggie, please. Can we talk about this alone? Without an audience. My mother looks at me. I give her a small nod. It's her choice. But I don't move. She turns back to Mark. No. I think Sam should stay. Something flickers across his face. Anger, frustration, maybe the first edge of real understanding that he's lost control of the situation. Fine. Then I'll say this plainly. I made mistakes. I can admit that. I was too rigid about household things. Too quick to correct. I come from a world where order matters, and I brought that home in ways I shouldn't have. He pauses, and I can see him choosing his next words carefully. But relationships require work from both people. You're not perfect either, Maggie. There it is. The pivot. The attempt to distribute blame. You're right, my mother says. I'm not perfect. But I don't yell at you for leaving a bag on the stairs. I don't tell you how to spend your day. I don't make you feel small in your own home. I never. You did. You do. Her voice is steady now, stronger. And I let you because I thought that's what compromise looked like. That's what I had to accept to not be alone. That's not fair. Fair. Something breaks in her voice. Mark, you stood at attention last night because my daughter outranks you. But you never gave me that respect, and I'm the person you're supposedly building a life with. The observation lands perfectly. I see it hit him, the recognition that he's been performing deference for rank while treating his partner like a subordinate. That's different, he says weakly.
How?
He doesn't have an answer. The silence stretches. Finally, he changes tactics. So, what do you want? You want me to apologize more? I'm apologizing. I'm here, trying to fix this. I want you to move out, she says. The words come out soft but final. He stares at her like she's speaking a foreign language. Move out.
Yes.
I need time.
Space.
To figure out what I actually want without someone telling me what I should want. Maggie, you're overreacting. We can work through this without me having to. I'm not overreacting. Her voice doesn't rise, but something in it makes him stop talking. I'm finally reacting the right amount. I should have said this weeks ago. He looks at me, as if I might intervene. When I don't, he tries one more time. This is what she wants. Your daughter. She shows up and suddenly everything we built is. We didn't build anything, my mother says. You organized my life to suit your preferences. That's not the same thing. I watch Mark process this. He's run out of tactical options. The uniform didn't help. The apology didn't work. Blaming me fell flat. He's facing something he can't command his way through. I need to get some things from upstairs, he finally says. Take whatever you need, my mother says. I'll box up the rest. He leaves without another word. We hear him overhead, drawers opening, closet doors. The sounds of someone dismantling a presence that was never quite solid to begin with. My mother sits back down. Her hands are shaking slightly. Did I just do that? You did. I can't believe you did the right thing. He's going to be angry. He already is. But that's not your problem to manage. She laughs, a short, almost shocked sound.
No.
I guess it's not. Mark comes back down with a duffel and a hanging bag. He stops in the kitchen doorway one more time. I'll call you in a few days, when you've had time to calm down and think clearly. Please don't, my mother says. His jaw tightens. He looks at me one last time, and I see him trying to find something to say. Some parting shot that would let him leave with dignity intact. I meet his eyes and say nothing. He leaves. The house feels different immediately, lighter, more open, like pressure has been released. My mother starts crying. Not sad tears, something else. Relief, maybe. Or the complicated grief of recognizing you've been living smaller than you needed to. I put my arm around her shoulders, and we sit there while morning light fills the kitchen, and the coffee grows cold. What now? She asks eventually. Now you take your time. You figure out what your life looks like when you're not accommodating someone else's version of order. She nods, wiping her eyes. That's going to take a while. That's okay. You've got time. Thank you, she says. For seeing it. For not letting me pretend. That's what daughters are for. She laughs again, more genuinely this time. I thought daughters were supposed to call on Sundays and send birthday cards. I can do that too. We sit together as the morning moves forward, and I think about the different kinds of strength. The obvious kind, rising through ranks, commanding ships, making hard calls under pressure. And the quieter kind, standing in your own kitchen and saying no to someone who's been treating you like you're not enough. My mother has both kinds. She just needed reminding. The next 3 days unfold in careful increments. Mark leaves a voicemail on Saturday. His voice is controlled, almost pleasant, as if the previous morning never happened. He wants to discuss things rationally and suggests dinner at the Italian place they used to go to. My mother deletes it without calling back. Sunday morning, he tries a different approach. A text message. I've been thinking about what you said. You're right about some things. Can we talk? She shows it to me over breakfast. What do you think? I think his words don't acknowledge what he actually did. He's being vague on purpose. That's what I thought too. She sets the phone down. But part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Maybe he really is trying. I've seen this pattern before, in officers who've been relieved of command, in subordinates who've been caught in misconduct. They apologize in generalities, acknowledge some things, and hope the lack of specificity will let them slip back into the situation without real accountability. If he was genuinely trying, I say carefully, he'd name what he did wrong. He'd say, I yelled at you about the porch light, or I made you feel small about how you organize your time. Vagueness is a hedge. It leaves him room to redefine things later. She nods slowly. I never thought about it that way. It's something I've learned watching people try to avoid consequences. The truly accountable ones are specific. The others just want the problem to go away. Monday brings a different kind of contact. Mark shows up at the house at 1400 hours, while he knows I'm scheduled to fly out to DC at 1600. My mother and I are in the living room, organizing belongings he'd rearranged, when we hear his truck. I'll handle this, I say, standing. Sam, you don't have to, I know. But I'm going to. I meet him at the door before he can knock. He's in civilian clothes this time, khakis and a button-down, carefully neutral.
He stops when he sees me.
I need to talk to Maggie. She doesn't want to see you right now. That's for her to say, not you. She already said it. Multiple times. His jaw tightens. You've turned her against me. I didn't have to. You did that yourself. You don't know what our relationship was like before you showed up for 2 days and decided to judge. I know what I saw. I know what she's told me. That's enough. He leans forward slightly, not quite aggressive, but testing boundaries. You're used to giving orders, Admiral. But you don't have authority here. You're right. I don't. But my mother does. And she told you to give her space. I just want to. No. The single word stops him. I've used this tone with subordinates who've pushed too far, with commanders who've needed a hard line drawn. It's not loud. It's not emotional. It's just final. He stares at me for a long moment. I can see him calculating, weighing options, trying to find an angle. Finally, he steps back.
Tell her I came by, he says.
I will. He leaves. I watch until his truck disappears down the street, then go back inside. My mother is standing in the hallway, her arms wrapped around herself. Thank you. You could have done that yourself. I know. But it felt good to have backup. That afternoon, I help her with practical things. We change the locks. She'd given Mark a key after 2 months, and she doesn't want him walking in unannounced again. We update her emergency contacts, removing his name. We call the VA hospital to change her volunteer schedule, shifting to days when he won't be there. Small things.
Concrete things.
The kind of details that make moving on feel possible instead of abstract. Over dinner, she asks me about my command. For the first time in months, we talk about my work without rushing through it. I tell her about my chief of staff, Captain Ruiz, who's been essential in managing our current readiness cycles. About Senior Chief Tate, who has a gift for reading junior sailors and knowing when they need mentorship versus discipline. You're good at this, she says. Leading people. I learned from watching you. She looks surprised. Me? You raised me while working full-time. You managed an ER during staffing shortages. You never made people feel small, even when you were exhausted. That's leadership. She's quiet for a moment. I never thought of it that way. You should. Later that night, I find her going through photo albums. Pictures of me at the academy, at my commissioning, at various promotions. She stops at one from my 06 ceremony, her standing next to me, beaming, while I had Captain's Eagles pinned to my collar. I was so proud that day, she says. I kept thinking about all the nights you studied at the kitchen table. All the times you wanted to quit and didn't. You wouldn't let me.
No.
I wouldn't. She closes the album. I forgot that about myself. That I used to be the person who didn't accept giving up. You're still that person. You just had a setback. A setback named Mark. A setback named Mark. I agree. She laughs, and for the first time since I arrived, it sounds genuine. Not forced or polite, but real. The next morning, I'm packed and ready for my flight. My mother walks me to the door, and we stand there for a moment, neither of us quite ready to let go. You're going to be okay, I say. I know. But if you're not, if he escalates or makes you uncomfortable, I'll call. I promise. I hug her, feeling how small she's gotten. Or maybe I just never noticed before. I love you, Mom. I love you too. Thank you for, she pauses, for being strong enough to see what I couldn't. You saw it. You just needed permission to acknowledge it. She nods. Go lead your sailors, Admiral. I drive away watching her in the rearview mirror. standing in the doorway of her house, looking more solid than she had 3 days ago. Not healed, not finished processing, but standing. At the airport, I check my messages. One from Captain Ruiz about a readiness review. One from Senior Chief Tate about a personnel issue. And one from a number I don't recognize. It's Mark. I know you think you helped her, but you made things worse. She was happy before you interfered. I hope you're satisfied. I delete it without responding. I've relieved officers for less than what Mark did. For creating toxic commands. For treating people as obstacles instead of human beings. For confusing authority with control. But this wasn't my command to oversee. This was my mother's life to navigate. I just happened to be there when she needed someone to see clearly. And now she's doing the hard work herself. The work of rebuilding trust with her own judgment, of remembering who she was before she tried to make herself smaller to fit someone else's version of order. As my flight takes off, I think about leadership again. The difference between commanding and controlling. Between authority and respect. Mark will probably never understand that difference. But my mother's starting to. And that's enough. The days settle into a rhythm from a distance. I return to my command, diving back into the demands of managing strike group logistics and fleet readiness. But I call my mother every evening now, not twice a week. Short conversations, mostly, how her day went, what she's doing with her time, whether Mark has made contact. For 2 weeks, there's silence from him. My mother starts to relax. She rearranges the living room back to how she had it before he moved things. She leaves lights on without thinking about it. She takes up watercolor painting, something she'd mentioned wanting to try, and he dismissed as wasteful. I'm terrible at it, she tells me on a Tuesday night, laughing. But I don't care. It's just nice to do something, because I want to. Then week 3, the messages start again. First, an email. Long, rambling, full of self-reflection that somehow never quite names what he did wrong. He talks about communication styles and different expectations and learning to compromise. He says he's been doing the work and wants a chance to show her he's changed. My mother forwards it to me. What do you think? I read it twice, looking for accountability. For specifics. For anything that suggests genuine understanding. I don't find it. I think he's telling you what he thinks you want to hear. I say. But I also think you don't need my opinion. What does your gut tell you? She's quiet for a moment. That it sounds right but feels wrong. That's your answer. She doesn't respond to the email. Next comes a text from a mutual friend, someone from the VA hospital. Mark has been asking about her, saying he's worried, implying she's not acting like herself. The friend, well-meaning, suggests my mother reach out to him. He seems really torn up about things.
My mother calls me about this one.
Am I being cruel? Should I at least talk to him? Do you want to?
No.
But I keep thinking maybe I owe him a conversation. Closure or whatever. I choose my words carefully. You don't owe anyone access to you. Not even for closure. Especially not someone who made you feel like you had to earn peace in your own home. But what if he really is changed? Then he'll demonstrate that through respect for your boundaries, not by going around them.
She deletes the text.
Week 4 brings the escalation I'd been expecting. Mark shows up at the VA hospital during her volunteer shift. The coordinator calls me because my mother listed me as her emergency contact, professional courtesy, officer to officer. Your mother's fine, the coordinator says. But there was an incident. Her ex-boyfriend showed up, insisted on talking to her. She asked him to leave. He made a scene. Security escorted him out. Is he banned from the facility? We're working on that. But I wanted you to know. I call my mother immediately. She's shaken but trying to downplay it. It wasn't that bad. He just got loud. I'm fine, Mom. Really, Sam? I handled it. I told him to leave, and he eventually did. After security got involved.
Well,
yes. I think about my next move carefully. I'm 2,000 miles away, in the middle of managing a carrier strike group preparing for deployment. I can't drop everything and fly back. But I also can't leave this alone. I'm going to make a call, I say. Just a precaution. To who? Someone who can make sure this doesn't happen again. I reach out through official channels, flag officer to flag officer. A quick conversation with a colleague who has connections at Mark's base. Not a formal complaint, just a quiet word. The kind of professional courtesy that happens when someone's personal behavior starts bleeding into professional reputation. He's got a temper issue, I say. Nothing documented yet, but his ex-girlfriend is having problems with harassment. I wanted it on someone's radar. Understood, my colleague says. I'll make sure his commander is aware. Quietly. Within 2 days, Mark's contact stops. No more emails. No more texts through friends. No more surprise visits. My mother notices. It's like he just vanished. Someone probably had a conversation with him, I say, about appropriate boundaries. You did something. I made a phone call. Nothing official. Just let the right people know there was a pattern worth watching. She's quiet. Is that going to hurt his career? The question catches me. Even now, after everything, she's worried about him. It's the same instinct that let him treat her poorly for months. The need to be fair, to not cause harm, to smooth things over. His career will be fine as long as he stops harassing you, I say. But if he doesn't, then yes, it'll become a problem. And that's on him, not you. I know. You're allowed to protect yourself. That's not cruel. That's necessary. Another week passes. Then 2. My mother starts talking about other things on our calls. A book she's reading, a new volunteer project at the hospital, a neighbor she's become friends with. Mark's name comes up less and less. How are you doing? I ask one evening. Really? Better. Some days are harder than others. I catch myself thinking I should text him about something, and then I remember I don't have to report my day to anyone. She pauses. It's strange. I feel lonely sometimes, but also lighter. That's normal. Is it? I keep wondering if I made the right choice. If I gave up too easily. You gave him multiple chances to acknowledge what he did. He kept deflecting. That's not giving up easily. That's recognizing a pattern. I suppose. Mom, you spent 4 months walking on eggshells. You locked your bedroom door because you didn't feel safe. That's not a relationship. That's endurance. She doesn't respond immediately. When she does, her voice is soft. You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard to remember sometimes. That's okay. It takes time. That night, I think about the difference between loneliness and solitude. My mother had chosen Mark because she was lonely, because the house felt too empty, because she wanted someone to share her life with, because after decades of being strong, she wanted someone else to be strong for her. But strength that controls isn't strength at all. It's just fear wearing authority as a mask. Real strength is what she's doing now, sitting with discomfort instead of filling it with the wrong person. Learning to distinguish between being alone and being lonely. Recognizing that she doesn't need someone to organize her life. She needs someone who respects that she's already done that herself. I text her before bed. Proud of you. For all of it. She responds an hour later. Thank you for not letting me settle. I forgot I didn't have to. 3 months pass. I fly home for Thanksgiving, a brief 72-hour window between commitments. My mother picks me up at the airport, and I barely recognize her. Not physically, though she's let her hair grow out and stopped dressing in the muted colors Mark preferred. It's something else. A straightness in her posture. A certainty in her movements. You look different, I say. I feel different. She smiles. Good different. The house has changed too. She's painted the kitchen a warm yellow, rearranged furniture to flow better, put up photographs that Mark had deemed cluttered. The space feels lived in, personal, hers. Over dinner that first night, she tells me about her life. She's taken a watercolor class at the community center and made friends. She's volunteering more at the hospital, leading a support group for veterans' families. She's started hiking on weekends with a group from her book club. You've been busy, I say. I have. It's strange. I have less time now than when Mark was here, but I don't feel rushed. I'm doing things I actually want to do. Have you heard from him? Not directly. But Sarah, his colleague from the hospital, mentioned he's been seeing someone new. Another volunteer, younger. She says it without emotion, just stating fact. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. I hope she has better boundaries than I did. She pauses. Actually, I don't hope. I know. Because she's Air Force too. A major. She won't put up with his nonsense. I laugh. No, probably not. Thanksgiving Day is quiet, just the two of us. We cook together, working in the comfortable rhythm we developed when I was young. She tells me stories about her support group, the family she's helping, the progress they're making, how rewarding it is to use her nursing skills in a different way. I forgot how much I love this work, she says. When I was with Mark, everything felt like it had to be productive or efficient. There was no room for things that were just meaningful. You seem happy. I am. I'm also learning it's okay to not be happy sometimes. That I don't need to perform contentment for anyone. That night, I find her in the living room, looking through old photo albums again. She stops at a picture from my change of command ceremony when I made 07, the day I got my stars. She's standing next to me in that photo, and I can see the pride in her face, but also something else. Exhaustion, maybe. Or loneliness she was trying to hide. I was already with Mark when this photo was taken, she says. I remember being so proud of you, but also thinking about getting home to him, making sure I wasn't gone too long. He'd said he was fine with me traveling to Norfolk for your ceremony, but I knew he'd be counting the hours. I never knew that. I didn't want you to. Your day should have been about you. She closes the album. But looking at this now, I can see it in my face. The tension. The divided attention. I was already making myself smaller, and didn't even realize it. You're not anymore.
No.
I'm not. Friday afternoon, we go for a walk through the neighborhood. It's cold but clear, the kind of November day that makes everything sharp and vivid. My mother points out houses, tells me who lives where, shares small pieces of community she'd stopped noticing when Mark was around. Mrs. Chin 2 doors down lost her husband last year, she says. She's been struggling. I started bringing her dinner once a week. We sit and talk. Mark used to complain that I spent too much time on other people's problems. That's what nurses do. That's what humans do. Or should anyway. We walk in silence for a while. Then she asks, do you ever worry about ending up like him? Using your rank to control people? The question surprises me. Sometimes. That's why I watch for it.
How?
I listen to my senior enlisted. They'll tell me if I'm losing perspective. And I remember that every sailor on my ships is someone's kid. Someone's parent. Someone who deserves respect regardless of rank. She nods. Mark forgot that. Or maybe never learned it. He thought respect and obedience were the same thing. A lot of officers make that mistake. But you didn't. I try not to. But I have good people around me who keep me honest. That night, she makes hot chocolate, something she used to do when I was studying for exams. We sit in the kitchen with our mugs, and she asks me about my work. Really asks, wanting details instead of just the broad strokes. I tell her about the challenges of modern naval operations, the balancing act between readiness and resources, the weight of knowing thousands of sailors depend on my decisions. She listens without trying to fix or advise, just receiving the information with the kind of attention I rarely get. You're good at this, she says finally. Not just the Navy stuff. The people part. You see them. I learned from you. You keep saying that. Because it's true. You saw me when I was a kid figuring out what I wanted. You saw me when I was struggling at the academy. You saw me at every promotion, every milestone. You taught me that seeing people, really seeing them, matters more than any other skill. She's crying softly. I forgot how to see myself. For a while there, I only saw myself through Mark's eyes. And in that version, I was always falling short. But you're not.
No.
I'm not. She wipes her eyes. Thank you for reminding me. For standing in that kitchen with your stars and saying no when I couldn't say it myself. We sit in silence and I think about authority again. The kind that commands versus the kind that empowers. Mark had wanted my mother to be a subordinate in their relationship, someone to follow his systems, adopt his preferences, fit into his vision of order. He'd confused leadership with control. But real leadership makes space for people to be themselves. It sees their potential and helps them remember it when they forget. I didn't come home to command my mother's life. I came home to help her remember she'd always been capable of commanding her own. I returned to duty Sunday evening, flying back to my command with the satisfaction of seeing my mother genuinely happy. But even at distance, I can see her continuing to rebuild. She calls me the following Wednesday, excited. I join a pottery class. And before you say anything, yes, I know I already do watercolors. But I wanted to try something with my hands. Something tactile. That sounds great, Mom. Mark would have said it was frivolous. Too many hobbies. Good thing Mark doesn't get a vote. She laughs.
No.
He really doesn't. Over the following weeks, I watch her transformation continue through our regular calls. She mentions planning a trip to visit her sister in Colorado, something she talked about for years but never did because Mark didn't like traveling. She's been hiking every weekend, building stamina for mountain trails. She sounds vibrant in ways I haven't heard since before my father left. Then, in mid-December, she calls with news. I ran into Mark today, at the grocery store. My hand tightens on the phone. What happened? Nothing dramatic. He was polite, formal. He asked how I was doing and I said fine. He mentioned he's being reassigned, something about a position at the Pentagon. I said congratulations. We talked for maybe 3 minutes, and then we went our separate ways. How did you feel?
Relieved.
I thought I'd be nervous or angry, but I just felt nothing. He was just someone I used to know. She pauses. Is that normal? To feel so detached from someone who took up so much space in my life. Completely normal. It means you've processed it.
He looks smaller, she says.
I don't mean physically. Just diminished somehow. Like without someone to control, he didn't know what to do with himself. I think about that observation. Mark built his identity around authority, military rank, household rules, the structure that made him feel secure. Strip that away, and what's left? Someone who never learned that real strength doesn't require anyone else to be weak. I'm glad it was uneventful, I say.
Me too.
Though I did notice something. He was buying frozen dinners and pre-made salads. Lots of them. I thought about all the meals I used to make, how he'd critique the portions or the timing. And I realized he wasn't teaching me about nutrition or efficiency. He was just making me feel inadequate, so I'd work harder to please him. That's exactly what he was doing. I can't believe I fell for it. Don't do that. Don't blame yourself for someone else's manipulation. She's quiet. You're right. I'm working on that. My therapist says the same thing. You're seeing a therapist? Started last month. Just someone to talk through all this with. She's been helpful. She laughs softly. Mark used to say therapy was for people who couldn't handle their problems. Another red flag I missed. You didn't miss it. You just weren't ready to see it yet. Maybe. Christmas approaches. I can't make it home. Carrier group operations don't pause for holidays, but my mother doesn't seem bothered. She's spending it with her sister in Colorado, that trip she'd finally booked. I'm nervous about the altitude. She admits on our call before she leaves. But also excited. I haven't seen mountain snow in decades. Take lots of pictures. I will. And Sam, thank you. For everything. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. You gave me my life back. You did that yourself. I just held up a mirror. She calls me Christmas morning from Denver, breathless from the thin air, but happy. The mountains are incredible. I forgot how small they make you feel. But in a good way, like your problems are temporary but the world is permanent. I spend Christmas Day on the carrier, sharing a meal with sailors who couldn't make it home. It's good work, necessary work, but I think about my mother in Colorado, finally taking space for herself. New Year's brings a different kind of reflection. My mother calls at midnight her time, just to connect. New year, new life, she says. That's what my sister keeps saying. How do you feel about it? Hopeful.
Scared.
Grateful. All of it at once. She pauses. I keep thinking about what you said, about authority versus control. Mark thought controlling me was the same as loving me. But love doesn't shrink people. It expands them. That's exactly right. I want that. In my next relationship, whenever that happens. Someone who makes me bigger, not smaller. You'll find it, maybe. But right now, I'm okay with just me. I'm learning I'm pretty good company. I smile. You always were. In January, she sends me pictures from her pottery class. They're lopsided, imperfect, wonderful. I made you a bowl, she writes. It's ugly, but functional. Like most of my life decisions lately. I laugh and write back. It's perfect. Ship it to my quarters. The bowl arrives 2 weeks later, carefully wrapped. It is ugly, uneven, and slightly off-center, but when I put it on my desk, it feels right. A reminder that not everything needs to be perfect to be valuable. Mid-February, she calls with bigger news. I've been asked to lead a new program at the VA, training volunteers to work with families of active duty service members. It's a paid position, not much, but enough. They want me to develop the whole curriculum. Mom, that's incredible. I'm terrified. I haven't worked a real job in years. You've been working. You just weren't getting paid for it. True. She sounds energized. I said yes. I start next month. I'm proud of you. Thank you. I'm proud of me too. That's new. March brings the kind of indication I wasn't expecting. Sarah, Mark's colleague, reaches out to my mother through email. She's left him. The relationship lasted less than 3 months. He was wonderful at first, the email says. But then the criticism started. Nothing I did was right. He kept talking about our standards and proper order. I realized he was trying to rebuild what he had with you, and I wasn't interested in being controlled. My mother forwards me the email. Should I respond? Only if you want to.
She does.
A short, kind message acknowledging Sarah's experience and wishing her well. No, I told you so. No bitterness. Just compassion. She's younger than me, my mother says when we talked that night. Probably thought she could handle him better. But it's not about handling. It's about recognizing that some people need to control others to feel whole, and no amount of accommodating will fix that. You sound like a therapist. I've been going every week. It helps. By April, my mother is fully immersed in her new position. She talks about curriculum development, volunteer training, the families she's helping. Her voice carries confidence I haven't heard in years, maybe ever. I'm good at this, she says one evening, sounding almost surprised. I'm actually really good at it. Of course you are. But I forgot. When I was with Mark, I forgot I was capable. I let him convince me I needed his structure, his guidance, his approval. And I do need structure, but my own. Not someone else's version imposed on me. That's the difference between support and control. Exactly. In May, I finally manage a weekend home. The house looks even better. New curtains, fresh flowers, photographs everywhere. My mother has reclaimed every inch of space Mark tried to organize. We spend Saturday morning at her pottery class. I'm terrible at it, which makes her laugh.
See?
Being bad at something is fun when no one's critiquing you. That evening over dinner, she tells me about her work. The families she's helping, the volunteers she's training, the difference the program is making. She's animated, passionate, fully present. I love it, she says simply. I wake up excited about my day. That hasn't happened in years. I can tell. Mark tried to reach out last month, she says casually. Just a text. Said he'd been thinking about me, hoped I was well. What did you say? Nothing. Deleted it. He doesn't get access to my life anymore, not even small pieces. Good. It felt good. Final. She smiles. I think I'm done with that chapter now. Really done. That night, sitting on her porch with coffee, she asks me about my command. I tell her about upcoming deployments, personnel challenges, the constant balance between readiness and resources. Do you ever get tired of it? She asks. The responsibility? Sometimes. But then I remember why I'm doing it. Why? Because someone has to. And I'm good at it. And the sailors I lead deserve someone who sees them as people, not just billets on a roster. She nods. That's how I feel about my families now. They need someone who understands, who's lived the military life from the home front, who knows what it's like to wait and worry. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. Thanks to you. If you hadn't come home when you did, you would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. But you sped up the timeline. She looks at me. Those stars you carry, they're not just about naval authority, are they? They're about moral authority. Knowing when to step in. I hope so. They are. You showed me that. You could have let me stumble through with Mark, told yourself it wasn't your place. But you didn't. You stood in that kitchen and said no on my behalf until I could say it myself. We sit in comfortable silence as evening deepens. Somewhere down the street, kids are playing. A dog barks. Life continues in its ordinary, precious way. I'm happy, she says finally. Just happy. Is that okay? More than okay. Good. She smiles. Because I plan to stay this way. The day he yelled, "I give the orders here," he was wrong. Not because I outranked him, though I did, but because real leaders don't need to shout. Real leaders make space for others to stand tall. And in the end, that's exactly what my mother learned to do for herself. That's how it ended, not with a fight, but with clarity, boundaries, and a reminder that rank means nothing without respect. If you've ever had to confront someone who overstepped in your own home or your own family, I want to hear it. Have you ever stood up to a bully in your personal life? Has someone's true character only shown once they thought they had authority over you? And what did you do when you finally hit your limit? Drop your experiences in the comments. Your story might help someone else find their voice. If you found this helpful or relatable, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real stories about power, family, and drawing the line.